Good morning. My topic is Hadoop. So, we will be covering Introduction to Hadoop, Hadoop's component, Hadoop's execution mode, advantages of Hadoop and disadvantages of Hadoop. So now, first let us understand what is Hadoop. Hadoop is an open source software framework that is used for storing and processing large amount of data in a distributed computing environment. So, when the earlier times when there is no internet, we can easily share the text messages and it is stored in rows and columns, which is easy to store. But after the came of internet, we can share, apart from text messages, we can share videos and images, which is hard to store in rows and columns. So as the data has increased, so to store the big data, we have come with the approach Hadoop. Now the working process of Hadoop we will be understanding in further slides. So there components of Hadoop. So mainly there are three components of Hadoop: Hadoop HDFS, Hadoop Yarn and Hadoop MapReduce. So first let us understand what is HDFS. The term HDFS stands for Hadoop Distributed File System. So HDFS is the primary or major component of Hadoop ecosystem, and it is responsible for storing large data sets of structured or unstructured data across various nodes and thereby maintaining the metadata in a form of log files. HDFS consists of two core components, that is name node and data node. So what is name node? Name node, it stores metadata for the files like the directory structure. The server holding the name node instance is quite crucial as there is only one. Transaction log file, deletes, adds, etc. does not use transaction for whole blocks or file streams, only metadata. Handles creation of more replica blocks when necessary after a data node failure. Data node, it stores the actual data in HDFS, can run on any underlying file system, notifies name node of what block it has. Now, the architecture of HDFS. So, here the client shares the data which you want to store. So, first the data is divided and then it is sent to data nodes. Each data node has multiple copies because if there is any data failure, we can access the data from another data node. In this way, the data is divided and stored in smaller form. The data is divided into different nodes. Second is MapReduce. By making the use of distributed and parallel algorithms, MapReduce make it possible to carry over the processing logic and helps to write applications which transform big data sets into a manageable one. As it defines only, it is used to manage the data. MapReduce makes the use of two functions, that is map and reduce, whose task is: first, map performs sorting and filtering of data and thereby organizing them in the form of group. Map generates a key value pair based result which is later on processed by the reduce method. Second is reduce. As the name suggests, does the summarization by aggregating the mapped data. In simple, reduce takes the output generated by map as input and combines those tuples into smaller set of tuples. As the structure shows us, when the client want to access the data, it is not easy because the data is divided and it is stored in different data node. So MapReduce help us especially the map is a map help us to collect the data in the form of key value pair, and then as the output of the map, the reduce take it as the input and give us the output whatever the data we want, whatever the client wants the data. The third is yarn. Yarn stands for yet another resource negotiator. As the name implies, yarn is one who helps to manage the resources across the cluster. In short, it performs scheduling and resource allocation for the Hadoop system. So yarn is used to perform scheduling and resource allocation in Hadoop. It is used to manage the resources across the cluster. It consists of three major components, that is resource manager, nodes manager, and application manager. Resource manager has a privilege of allocating resources for the application in a system, whereas node managers work on the application of resources such as CPU, memory, bandwidth per machine, and later on acknowledges the resource manager. Application manager works as an interface between the resource manager and node manager and perform negotiation as per the requirement of the two. As you can see the structure of the yarn. Now execution mode. There are three modes: standalone mode, pseudo distributed mode, and fully distributed mode. So first is standalone mode. In standalone mode, none of the daemon will run, that is name node, data node, secondary name node, job tracker, and task tracker. We use job tracker and task tracker for processing purposes in Hadoop 1. For Hadoop 2, we use resource manager and node manager. Standalone mode also means that we are installing Hadoop only in a single system. By default, Hadoop is made to run in this standalone mode, or we can also call it as local mode. We mainly use Hadoop in this mode for the purpose of learning, testing, and debugging. So in standalone mode, it is a default mode in which Hadoop run. We use it in debugging. We use input and output file as a local file. Standalone Hadoop works very much fastest in this mode among all of these three modes. In standalone mode, Hadoop runs fastest in all the three. As we all know, HDFS, which is Hadoop Distributed File System, is one of the major components for which Hadoop utilized for storage permission is not utilized in this mode. You can think of HDFS as similar to the file systems available for Windows, that is NTFS, New Technology File System, and FAT32, that is File Allocation Table, which stores the data in the blocks of 32 bits. When your Hadoop works in this mode, there is no need to configure the files such as hdfs site.xml, mapred site.xml, core site.xml, etc. for Hadoop environment. In this mode, all of your processes will run on a single JVM, that is Java Virtual Machine, and this mode can only be used for small development purposes. Second is pseudo distributed mode. In pseudo distributed mode, we also use only a single node, but the main thing is that the cluster of simulated, which means that all the processes inside the cluster will run independently to each other. All the daemons that are name node, data node, secondary name node, resource manager, node manager, etc. will be running as a separate process or separate JVM, that is Java Virtual Machine, or we can say run on different Java processes. That is why it is called a pseudo distributed. One thing we should remember that as we are using only the single node setup of all master and slave processes are handled by the single system. So in pseudo distributed, it is similar to the standalone node, but pseudo node it is all run on different JVM, that is Java Virtual Machine, and there is only the single node setup, so all the master and slave processes are handled by the single system only. Name node and resource managers are used as master, and data node and node manager is used as a slave. A secondary name node is also used as a master. The purpose of the secondary name node is to just keep the hourly based backup of the name node. In this mode, Hadoop is used for development and for debugging purposes. Our HDFS, that is Hadoop Distributed File System, is utilized for managing the input and output processes. We need to change the configuration which is not needed in the standalone. The configuration which we have to need to change are mapred site.html, code site.xml, HDFS site.xml for setting up the environment. This is the structure of the pseudo distributed node. Now the third is fully distributed mode. This is the most important one, in which multiple nodes are used. Few of them run on master daemons, that are name node and resource manager, and the rest run on slave daemons, that are data node and node manager. Here Hadoop will run on the cluster of machine or node. Here the data that is used is distributed across different nodes. This is actually the production mode of Hadoop. Let's clarify or understand this mode in a better way in physical terminology. Once you download the Hadoop in a tar file format or zip file format, then you install it in your system and you run all the processes in a single system. But here in the fully distributed mode, we are extracting this zip file to each of the nodes in the Hadoop cluster, and then we are using a particular node for a particular process. Once you distribute the process among the nodes, then you will define which nodes are working as a master or which one of them is working as a slave. In fully mode, as we have read it, it is important in which, because in this multiple nodes are used, few run on master domains and few run on slave domain. This is the structure of the fully distributed mode. That is images and video very efficiently. Speed. Hadoop uses a distributed file system to manage its storage. Now, disadvantages of Hadoop. First, problem with small files. Hadoop fails when it needs to access the small size of file in a large amount. So many small file searches the name node and make it difficult to work. So it is a disadvantage that it run difficult with small files. Second is vulnerability. Hadoop is a framework that is written in Java, and Java is one of the most commonly used programming languages, which makes it more insecure as it can be easily exploited by any of the cyber criminal. As Hadoop framework is written in Java, but it can easily exploited by any of the cyber criminal, so it is quite insecure. The next point is lack of security is similar, and third and the last is supports only batch processing. So Hadoop only work in batches. It supports only batch processing, which delays the work and it makes the work very slow. Thank you.